morning and welcome to VSA Couple of 5 Minute Morning Miner. It's Monday the 20th of July. Hope you all had a good weekend. Hope you all enjoyed Spain winning the football, England scraping through against Argentina in the rugby, Kimi Antonelli winning the Formula One, and I should know off the top of my head who won the golf, but I can't quite remember. Oh dear, there was so much sport, wasn't there? The golf was Fox. There you go. It was quite a weekend of sport. But here we are. We're back with a different sort of sport called mining. And actually, the two probably main stories for us this morning, Ollie, both begin with E. One is out on the ASX, one's in London. Let's start off with the ASX one, EQ Resources, where Forest has basically acquired Oaktree's entire stake.
Yeah, which is a big validation for EQ that they've moved from effectively a financial investor to a stalwart of Australia's mining industry, and someone with unbelievable connections in China, who's probably got a handle on the tungsten price, more so than many others. So to be taking, I know that the shares have come back a bit since the initial excitement and rally in the prices at the end of last year, but clearly it's a long-term bet on tungsten, but also someone who's been quite reserved on calling for ex-China supply chains. So it's really a sort of pro-Australia bet.
Yeah, I mean it is a fascinating move because he's no fool. But obviously, we will wait and see. The stock's up 34% this morning. Not back up at its highs yet, but it's a nice move. All right, let's move back to the UK, and we've got Emmerson, where there's some quite important news.
Yep, it's a short announcement, but as you say, it is important. Morocco had requested bifurcation of various parts of the arbitration case, and that's a pretty standard thing for that side of the arbitration to request after the memorial, as if you can split up the case into various different sections and win one of them, then it becomes easier to win the rest of the case. So it's positive for Emmerson in that everything will be reviewed together as a single case. So it's good from that perspective, but also it keeps the case efficient from a time perspective, as it doesn't add additional sections. We don't exactly know what the timetable is yet, but looking at Panthera, that timetable came out relatively shortly after the bifurcation decision. In either way, the next step will be for Morocco to submit their full counter memorial, which will cover all of the aspects of the case following this decision.
I mean, the stock's actually unchanged this morning at 1.9p, which in my view is pretty ludicrous. It's far too cheap anyway. But I think it's interesting that, I mean, Panthera is also far too cheap at the moment. There's been a bit of a sea change or mood change from, say, a year ago when everybody sort of understood the journey and how the price went up. I think really caused by LCM, litigation capital market, which has obviously run into a lot of problems. And suddenly people have thought, oh, hang on, if they're in trouble, maybe the whole industry is in trouble. Even Burford is off over 50% year to date. But I think with these cases, we've had a few that haven't worked. But if you look at, first of all, you've got to pick the right ones. And then you've also got to say, look, it's the journey I'm interested in. Probably have two to hedge your bets. But both of them, in my view, and we obviously act for Panthera and Emmerson. I own both, I'll be first to admit. Both of them, in my view, look extraordinarily cheap for what the concept is. And both of them are basically funded. So it doesn't, to be honest, even if they're people at LCM did go bust, it's not a problem. But that's for the market to obviously work out. Okay, anything else you want to mention, Ollie, this morning?
Update from South 32 this morning. They're dual listed on the ASX and in London. They had their quarterly update. Copper guidance, they actually beat that with their Q4 sales volumes, which were up 15%. Most of that came from Sierra Gorda, which outperformed. But it's worth highlighting that the costs at Sierra Gorda actually had a bit of a blowout, and they were up on the back of fuel, higher fuel prices, as a bit of a one-off, according to the company. The other thing is that they haven't provided guidance for next year for manganese, as they're waiting for some maintenance work to be completed before they can give that guidance. So although the initial headlines look positive, there's a couple of caveats to that.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the majors are all performing fairly much, coming up with similar sort of guidance, etc., across the whole lot of them. Any of the others you want to mention this morning, Ollie?
Well, just to point out, Pulsar, which is also a VSA client, all of their resolutions at their AGM were passed.
Yeah, they were. And actually, the stock is unchanged today, which is perhaps slightly surprising because in the FT today, there is an article, I don't know if you've managed to get around to reading it yet, that talks about actually China starting to ban supplies to Europe of helium. That's, I mean, I think it's particularly, a one-off shock, should we say, but it reminds people that if you've got local helium, which Pulsar has in the USA, it is much more valuable than just taking it as part of the Qatari gas, byproduct. So yeah, we do like Pulsar helium. Okay, I think that's enough for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks, Ollie.
This podcast has been produced and edited by VSA Capital. It is intended for information purposes and not as investment advice. The information is intended for recipients who understand the risks associated with equity investments in smaller companies. Please do your own research and do not rely on a single source when making an investment decision. VSA Capital may derive fees from this content and seeks to do business with the companies mentioned.